everyone, my name is Alok Mishra and I once again welcome all of you on my YouTube channel. So today, as I discussed yesterday, I'm going to give you a glimpse into some of the most amazing titles that I have with me in my library, and I'll give you an opportunity to kindle your love affair or kindle your liking for those books, and if you want, you could easily get a copy from the market. Some of the books may be available instantly, but some of the books might be a little difficult to source because those are older. So now let's start with a funny title. How to read a book. So this might not be funny for many people because reading a book must be an art. It has to be an art. But this one particularly, how to read a book, the art of getting a liberal education. Now this one has been written by certain Mortimer J. Adler. So if you could see, I will also put pictures so that you can easily look at it while the video plays. So in this book, you'll find his method, how he thinks a person should read the book. The thing is, today we all have our own conscious, our own decision-making prowess, and we decide what to read, what not to read, but we do get advice from people who are regular readers. But how to read a book is something that might not be relevant today. Still, if you want to go through this title, if you want to find some chapters, let me just read a few chapters so that you can get. Table of Contents says, Part 1, the activity of reading. To the average reader. Now the very first title, the very first chapter is kind of demeaning the readers. To the average reader. The reading of reading, the second chapter. Reading is learning, the third chapter. Teachers, dead or alive, the fourth chapter. The defeat of the schools, the fifth chapter. On self-help, the seventh chapter. So you see, like, the author is a little daunting towards his readers, and this is a tactics that may not work. Now this particular book is a 1959 edition. This one is good to read on a few pages where you can find certain good tactics to read a book. But in general, this is why I told this is a funny book, because the author has a very different kind of approach. So putting this aside, we get to after how to read a book. Surprisingly, there is a title by I.A. Richards, the famous literary critic, and the title is How to Read a Page. So if that was not enough, now this one may be a little interesting. So I.A. Richards tells you how to read a page, and the subtitle tells a course in effective reading with an introduction to 100 great words by I.A. Richards. So now this one may be interesting for those who want to have some insights into the art of literary criticism for students of English literature. This will be helpful because this actually tells you some good things. So like the previous one, I will just read the table of contents so that you can get an idea what the book may be about. After introduction, you find how a reader might improve. Now this one is a little inspiring. The second chapter tells you an obvious characteristic of all animals. Now this would be interesting. The third tells you to learn, compare. The fourth, random scratching and clawing. The fifth, to unite, abstract. The sixth, the warfare of heart and head. This one is a very interesting chapter, believe me. The seventh, the choice of the keywords. The eighth, part whole shifts and content changes. Ninth, make, get, give, love, have. 10th, seem, be, do, see. Now the chapters are very interesting as you go on reading. And the 11th, mind, thought, idea, knowledge. And the 12th and the final chapter, region, purpose, work, retrospect. Now this one is an interesting book compared to that one. That one is written with certain bias and certain preoccupation in mind, but this one genuinely helps you in analyzing particular pages so that you can get the maximum of that page that you are reading. Now after this one, so this one is 1967 edition. this is the fifth impression that I have. Now, coming to two rarest of the rare books for today, not for like 10 or 30 years ago. It could have been achieved, but you can also try your luck and you can try to find these books if you can in some older libraries or some booksellers who sell old books. So this one, this little beauty, the perfect blue hardback book. Can you guess the title? Can you guess the author? You'll be surprised if I tell you, like, this one is a very rare today 1934 edition of the Essays by Addison. If I did not show you this book, you could not have believed me. So this is Essays of Joseph Addison, chosen and edited by John Richard Green, M.A., LL.D., Honorary Fellow of Jesus College, Oxford, with notes by G.S.T. Quintin, and it has been published by Macmillan & Co. Limited, St. Martin's Street, London. So this one is 1934 edition of a beautiful collection, and literally beautiful as well as aesthetically beautiful. So now this one has very interesting essays and very good ones that we often have to read in fragments in our syllabuses. So Addison's essays are always popular, but this particular book is a thing of beauty, and it will certainly be a joy till the time it lasts. So putting it aside, the next one is for those who love reading novels. But this one is very interesting. It has, I think, worn out. It might have been red, but now it's pink. So once again, can you guess the author, the title, or something? This one is a rare Love and Friendship and Other Early Works by Jane Austen. And this particular book is a 1929 edition. You have to believe me if I'm telling you. This one is a 1929 edition of The Early Works by Jane Austen. It was printed in Great Britain, and it has Love and Friendship, Lisley Castle, The History of England. Could you believe that Jane Austen also tried writing History of England? And collection of letters, scraps. Now this one, I read it more than often when I find time, because this gives you a better insight into the kind of author Jane Austen actually was. Because we read all those novels which are popular today and which will remain popular because Jane Austen's writing style will never fade away, will never wash away. But this one gives you a very interesting insight into other dimensions of a wonderful literary personality. For example, suppose I read something. Let's see, like we read some pages or we read some lines from surprisingly History of England from the reign of Henry IV to the death of Charles I by a partial, prejudiced and ignorant historian. So this one just amuses you whenever you read the title, but leaving that aside, we move on and we find some random page. I will just try to find out. Elizabeth. Okay, so I'll read just a paragraph or maybe some lines from this particular page 91, and the title is Elizabeth. She must be talking about Queen Elizabeth. So now, an Austen writes, "It was peculiar misfortune of this woman to have bad ministers." So it is interesting, like all her openings, it is also interesting. "Since wicked as she herself was, she could not have committed such extensive mischief had not these vile and abandoned men connived at and encouraged her in her crimes." So now I think this is enough. This is enough to read. And you find, like, as she early announced, like this may be some bias, some prejudice, or some otherwise history of England. And this one is truly interesting whenever you find time to read such works of a lady who was so clever and so witty and so classy in her writings in novels. So now these were the four books that I brought to you today. I will try to bring some more from the collections that I have. And I hope that you liked what you saw today. So these were the two wonderful books. Like one is Addison's essays and other is some works, early works by Jane Austen. And this one is very helpful. You could easily find an Addison today. How to Read a Page by I.A. Richards. And this one was a funny book that I was talking about. How to Read a Book by someone who doesn't believe his readers know how to read a book. So this is ironical, isn't it? So this was it for today, friends. And I will try to bring some more. And I'll also try to bring regular videos about serious issues that we often discuss. So thank you for watching this video today. And I hope you liked it. Till the next time we meet, have a good time. Thank you.